So from the standpoint of the mayor, I think a lot of elected officials, are very eager to have economic development come to their communities. The problem with this kind of retail project is that you tend to lose more jobs than you gain, and you tend to lose more economically than you gain. And I think it's really critical from the standpoint of the mayor and other community leaders to be looking at the economic studies that have been done, and to be looking at not only what benefits this might bring, but also what the costs are going to be. And some of those costs ultimately may outweigh the benefits. There have been a number of studies done in the US and elsewhere that have tracked the job impacts of these kinds of projects, and have found that these retail developments eliminate more jobs than they create because they displace sales at existing businesses. Those businesses either downsize or close, and you end up losing as many jobs as you gain from the new project. And in fact, most studies show that at the end of the day, you end up losing more jobs, that the small businesses that lose out actually employ more people than the new project. There's also a very deep negative impact that happens in the local economy, in the sense that these kinds of shopping centers tend to be made up mostly of national or international retailers. They don't, most of the money that goes into those stores when people shop there leaves the community, which is very different from the local businesses where, if you shop at a local store, a large share of the dollar that you spend there is going to stay in your local economy and circulate locally, because that local store is buying all kinds of goods and services from other local businesses. So they need an accountant, they're hiring a local accountant, they need someone to create a website for them, they're hiring a local web developer, they're banking at the local bank, they're advertising in the local newspaper. Much of the money that comes into that store isn't just being respent locally and supporting all of these other businesses and jobs in the community. And that's not true with the out-of-town retailers. They don't have a need for any of those kinds of goods and services, and so a significant share of the dollars that are going into those shopping centers are simply vanishing. They're leaving the community, they're not supporting any local jobs. We also find, just one last point, that these kinds of projects generate a certain amount of tax revenue, but they also require a lot of services, and they put a big burden on road infrastructure, police and fire services. And at the end of the day, the cost for the community can often exceed any new tax revenue. So I think from the mayor's perspective, those are the kinds of things that are really important to look at, and to really ask the question, is this going to truly be a net plus for the community, or is this going to cost us a lot more than it creates? So from the perspective of workers, this is not the kind of project that creates true prosperity, in the sense that most of the jobs that this creates will be low wage, probably part-time employment. And as I noted before, often coming at the expense of existing jobs. So there really isn't going to be an overall gain of employment. There aren't going to be more jobs overall in the community. In fact, there'll probably be less. Consistently, studies find that these are very poor jobs from the standpoint of wages, and that wages don't tend to rise, that our workers often don't have much of a voice on the job. And this isn't really creating a foundation for growing their economy either, simply because it's retail, it's the same kind of retail you're going to find in a lot of different communities. So there's nothing that really creates a unique or a distinctive industry that is related to this particular place. And so in that sense, it's not, as I said, the foundation for a more prosperous economy. These kinds of projects are often here today and gone tomorrow. that they're very, in many cases, very short-lived in terms of the lifespan. At least that's been the case in the U.S., where the latest and greatest shopping mall is often superseded a few years down the road by a new project in a neighboring community that then begins to siphon off people to shop there. And so, in that sense, these projects are not typically built to have a lifespan that's very long, maybe 10 or 20 years at the most. And then it's the community that ends up with a derelict project that now you have to figure out, how do we redevelop this set of buildings that was built for this one purpose? What can we do with it? We now have quite literally thousands of vacant shopping centers in the U.S. because we've had so much of this kind of development, and there really hasn't been enough of a long-term support for we were building far more than shoppers can actually support, and developers just keep coming up with new ideas and leaving the old projects behind. So as I said, we now have thousands of vacant shopping centers around the country. That kind of trend is probably only likely to get worse in the sense that we have the internet now. More and more retail is going online, more and more shopping is going online. A lot of the kinds of retail companies that typically operate in these shopping centers are struggling or changing in various ways. So I think that's the other big concern that I would have if I lived in this community, is that this is not something that's, this could have far-reaching changes. This could impact the community in very negative ways, and then could close its doors 10 or 15 years down the road, which would be even more devastating. So from an investor standpoint, this is certainly not a quality long-term investment.